What is going on, Comic Fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined again. Welcome back to the show, Adam Rose.
It is awesome to be here. I'm fired up. I know we're seeing this in the future, but I'm on. By the time people see, I'll be in San Diego and back from San Diego,
Right?
and I'm just excited to be hanging with you again, my
Yeah,
dear
it is.
brother.
It has been too long. We were just talking. I think the last time I had you on, you had your book cooler. Was that was Source Point, right?
Yep, that's Source Point. Yep.
Okay, and that was like 2 years ago. And it's like, man, we had to come back for a conversation because you have a new series coming out called Huge Detective, and it's awesome. The first issue was great. I'm excited to talk to you about it. But since we've had such kind of a long break, like if someone's new to the show, how did you get into comics?
Well, I've been a passionate reader of them since I was 10,
Yeah.
and I then just started like I've always been like a writer, and then I just really got dove deeply into writing comics about like 15, 16, 17 years ago. Right, actually around there. And I just started off with it seems like I've constant in my writing of comics, I've constantly gone older because I started off with this all ages graphic novel, Playground Attack of the Gurglebots, through Marcosia Entertainment, where this kid gets all the powers of the playground. Like if he does freeze tag, it's real. If he does TV tag, he turns into some character, whatever it is. I guess an updated version now might be YouTube or something. But and then a few years later, or more recently, Source Point Press took me and Rob Ahmad's, and I have a little poster courtesy of my mom behind me because she said my background was so dull, of Corollary, which was a science fiction romp. And definitely not all ages, like a little more like skewing, like I'd say at the youngest 10 or 11 and up, about a galaxy of twins where if your twin dies, so do you. But one particular person, seen Captain Andromeda, somehow skirts that, and the world wants to know how, or I should say, the galaxy.
Yeah. It's so good. Like just the concept of playground is fantastic in and of itself. That like y'all, if you haven't read it, like like we imagined that as kids that we would do that. And then so like you're like, you know what, we got up all ages, we got kind of a more teen, then you're just like, let's just do like a more adult book. You're like, let's go for it.
Well, and it actually felt incredibly liberating. I don't know. I feel like like if I was on a track, I'm in full sprint with this because I just let everything flow. And working with Magenta King, he is my co-creator on this. Like I wrote it, but we've been like shoulder to shoulder via Zoom and whatnot for the last 3 years working on this. He lives in Brazil,
Okay.
and it's been incredible working with him. Like a dream come true. Like he
Yeah.
is just we are just so on the same page and just really wanting the world of Huge Detective to be something people panel to panel people are just gonna their eyes are gonna be having a feast.
Yeah. So since we're there, let's talk about it. What is a premise or elevator pitch for a huge detective?
So I'll start with, sometimes I'm reluctant to do like that. Well, it's a cross between this and this, but for this it really fits. It's Roald Dahl's like BFG meets Chinatown with a splash of True Detective.
Okay.
Because there is beyond Chinatown, which is just noir. This is got a horror element to it. It's definitely, and I've been a horror fan since forever. And this does, yes, it's fantasy, it's noir, it's a little bit of horror. And, the unique thing about this and just how Magenta and I have created this world, it has science fiction too, because it's not like straight up fantasy like Lord of the Rings or something. It's a not so distant future
Yeah.
where there's been this Omega event 30 years in the past where all these huge giants erupt from all over and there's this horrible clash. And in the end, we give them, or humans give them Australia, because at that point it was like we could all nuke each other or we could find a way to live together. And then, actually my editor brought up, well, this also reminds me of from the 90s, a movie that then was a TV show, Alien Nation.
I'm not familiar with it.
Well, it was I'm dating myself here. It was like this alien ship crash lands, and we have to kind of take them all in. And obviously, there's a lot of prejudice against both groups. And this one alien works his way up and becomes the first cop that's from another planet that partners up with a disgruntled LA cop that doesn't like aliens. And yeah, so that's where the similarities kind of branch off. But mine is, yeah, like Detective Tamaki, she is seen some shit, and her life, her family has been traumatized by what the Huge did 30 years ago. And she's kind of forced into this partnership with Detective Giant. And they've been similar for him too. Like he's had some issues, some without spoiling anything, some temptations involving humans that he's like resisting now to be the first allowed on human soil, the United States in this case, to help solve this mystery, because the one witness to these horrific murders is a human who thinks he's a Huge.
It's so okay. So where did this idea and this concept start then? Because I'm like the just to like read like because I kind of like got the pitch originally, like you told, and then I started to read. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is a more in-depth world than I even pictured. But when you just told me about it originally, so where did you come up with this idea?
I mean, it's funny. I just like a lot of times, I guess my best like creative juice flowing moments are when my daughter or my son, when he was younger, though sometimes maybe he'll let me now. Just I riff and tell a bedtime story in the middle of the night in the dark in her room. And so my daughter Caroline, like 4+ years ago or something, is where the seed of this took place. Where obviously I was giving her a much more friendly version of a giant and a human interacting, and then I left her room after I kissed her goodnight, and that's when like my dark side, something just clicked, and I just started writing. And Detective Tamaki and Giant, they just came to me, and that's where it started.
I I'm glad that you clarified that like it was a cleaner version thing because I'm like, wow, like I got to step on my bedtime stories with my kids. If you this is the story you're telling your kids, like I'm like, man, I'm just reading. Like I can't even come up with something, but I don't know if I'm reading them Huge Detective here before bedtime.
No, yeah, not for them. I mean, yeah, that's where it started, and then I scripted the whole thing from issue 1 to the end of issue 5, and hooked up with Magenta because I saw his work in Dark Horse's Jenny Zero,
Yeah.
which I knew. I was like, and I took a chance. He didn't know me, and I just kind of cold called him, and he was intrigued. And then he read the script, and he said he was all in, and he really wanted to be like my co-creator on this, and it's just been an honor and a treat.
Yeah. So, once you got the team together and you guys started creating this, where did you kind of land on connecting with Titan to publish this?
So yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of, because I'm a huge, pardon the pun, Blade Runner fan, and so I've been reading Blade Runner, and I mean, it's funny that like all their IPs are like some of my favorite things growing up and even as an adult. Conan the Barbarian, like with Jim Zub, has been awesome. Blade Runner by Variant, because they have a few different titles. It's just been amazing. Doctor Who, I grew up. In fact, my first comic book from my grandfather was a Doctor Who comic from like forever ago. I think it was Marvel that had the rights then. So I've been following them, and then I noticed they were dabbling in the creator-owned world. So I reached out, and they got back to me right away. And it's been an amazing partnership. Like they've been really hands-on, and like the trailer that we just released yesterday, they put that together. It's just awesome. So I'm really lucky to be with them.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So they got the Conan. Do they also have the Savage Sword of the magazine size, or is that somewhere else? Okay.
The magazine side, that's them. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
So I'm getting into Titan a little bit myself now because of like I had some friends that were like, you got to read Savage. So So I'm like, all right. And man, what a world.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, it's gorgeous art. I'm loving it, and I think Jim Zub's going to be doing some Titan talk at San Diego that I'm hoping to hit.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Doctor Who. So I feel like I'm obligated to ask, who's your favorite doctor?
Oh man, I have to go with the eighth.
Okay. And now I'm listening like I know exactly who that is. I've never seen any Doctor Who. So now my follow-up question is what season would you recommend someone who has never watched Doctor Who to watch?
Ooh boy, because I feel like they're really different. I mean, it depends on if you want to go really old school. If you want to go like deep dive, it's kind of like a Star Trek. I have to go to Star Trek for this because if someone said, "Where do you start with Star Trek?" Well, now you could say, "Well, if you want to just laugh your ass off, go to Lower Decks."
Right.
I guess it's a little easier with Doctor, but even now with the newest season that's Disney Plus, it seems like it's still all the same wheelhouse and these amazing big ideas that just seem to break your brain. And like it's like they were doing things way before Black Mirror was even in existence.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not giving you a direct answer because I think if you want to see what they did with nothing as far as like special effects, go back to the 80s, dig in there. If you want to see kind of the more glitzy, polished stuff, the last 10 years of it are the way to go. And then if you want to just see like the brand new that seems targeting like a more of a teen audience, at least that's the vibe I'm getting, and somebody might strongly disagree with me. And then the newest stuff is for them too.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense, like, because I feel like people always have like, this is my favorite doctor, but this is where I'd recommend as like to get into the world because if you fall in love here, then you might get pulled into other directions. So I
Yeah,
feel like I'm obligated to ask.
it's great. I mean, as long as they have a scarf on, I'm happy.
But that's the last thing I need right now is a fall into another fandom. But like I keep running into enough Doctor Who fans. I'm like, I've got to just try it out at some point. And those are going to be my famous last words.
Yeah, I'd say start more recently.
Okay. Okay. So you got connected then with Titan because you were a fan kind of, and you're like, this, doing creator owns this kind of fits into the world that I'm creating here, that your team is creating. So for you, like you said it's 5 issues, right?
Yep.
Was that planned? Like, do you have like if there's more to this world, I could expand if I want to, but right, like I'm telling a contained story right now for the 5 issues.
100% it was planned, but also, and you'll see when people pick up issue one, Titan was super cool to let me do this as well. At the very end of it is a case file. Like it's a little, like just 1.5 page like entry by one of the detectives, and it alternates every issue. And some of these case files are dealing with recent activities. Some go back to the Omega event. So they're like journal entries slash like cases that show how big this world is, and I am like chomping at the bit to branch out. I mean,
Yeah.
this story is contained,
Right.
but the world of it and the different tangents that we even like kind of subtly introduce, these little Easter eggs are all through the series. That's all ready. I mean, yes, I would love to go into the early days, like in the heart of the Omega event, or just branch off into other characters and follow their paths in this current situation.
Does so you know is this a is there a more difficult process drawing a not I mean you're not drawing it, but I mean you're helping in the creative process of leading into it. Have you found like with your notes of writing of like having to keep in mind the perspective a lot of the huge versus the detective and how you play with those scenes because you're limited to like you don't have a TV screen or where you can see and you have to really utilize the page. And so how is that process for you then as a writer to kind of like help lead the way then for your artist?
I love that question because I think this just connects to how deeply passionate I am about comics, the form, the medium, like the just what you can do with panels and pages and the turning of a page and perspective. And Magenta like really took anything I would lay out for panel descriptions and was so inventive with how we interpret that point of view.
Mm.
And part of that is a huge role in this book because, as I said, our main suspect and slash potential witness is a human who thinks he's a huge. And we have like a scene where he's like looking through binoculars using the small end to look to see make everything look small. So there's the panel configuration that Magenta comes up with, and just the storytelling that we're trying to do. Perspective is a huge character. It's a character in this book. I mean, there are going to be scenes later with Detective Giant where for him it looks like the tightest fit ever of where he is. And then you'll see, like, you know, relative to him, like a human, and it's like a vast space. So yeah, it was so much. I'm just always thinking about how we can explore that, and Magenta is just always right on it with me. I mean, even down to the details. Like we talked about the coat that Detective Giant wears, and we thought about that coat. Like, okay, well, it's not like he's just going to the tailor. If you look closely, it is like knitted, or well, knitted like with like something accessible to a huge sails, almost like giant ripped sails, patchwork together what his coat is. Like everything is just, there's an explanation, even if it's not present on that panel. And there are going to be so many things you're going to look at, like, well, how did they, you know, how do they get that much food to him or anything like that? But it's all baked in.
Yeah. And because I noticed that right off the bat, because there's a whole nother element that you have to deal with. Like when you have a buddy detective, or even like a, you know, detective story where there's, you know, the I don't want to be paired together kind of story. You can just put them in a car and be like, okay, go with it. Like here, like you got to get the detective up onto the huge's shoulder somehow. And so like you have to think more. Like, did you realize, like, when you're writing this, you're going like, I am adding so much more work to me and Magenta by trying to figure this out.
You know, my first thought when I wrote this was, comics give you permission to do so much. You know, there are people, and I'm not against this. I mean, but for me personally, when I write a comic, I'm writing a comic. But I know there are people that are like, I'm writing a movie, and I'm going to just make it a comic. This is a comic first, and yeah, they're just the challenges, instead of like, you were saying how hard it is, like, and Magenta just was up for it. He saw this, he's like, oh my gosh, this is insane. But he bought in. He's been in love with it, and what he's come up with shows that our mutual insanity for this.
That's so good. Like, well, one of the other things I've noticed is you're getting a handful of variant covers here with this. Like, well, how cool is that? Like, because you got some great artists. Like, we're already talking about Magenta, but then some of your variants, like,
it's a candy store of like just the most talented folk. And that's again like Titan just reaching out to all these artists. I mean, yeah, we have like Diego Yapur, we have Clint Bentley, we got Paul Pope. It's and there's like countless, like Robert Hack. I mean, there's a whole. I want to mention everybody, but I should have brought Chichi, because it's like incredible how many variants we have going on. And it's not just issue one. We got variants coming through like the whole series. I just saw some glimpses of ones that I can't talk about yet because they're for future issues, but just incredible stuff. Yeah, it's beyond exciting.
So is that all straight from Titan, or is that like, do you have a kind of like a wish list of like, I'd love to get something from Arrow, or do they say, here's kind of our wheelhouse of creators that we'll reach out to?
No, it was a combo.
Okay.
Magenta and I gave a wish list, and they had their people they love too, and this was a combination of both.
Yeah. So it seems like, you know, working with Titan has been a really good experience from that, of, you know, investing into this comic and caring about it. How do you as a creator figure out what publisher you want to connect with for, or like what project is right for which publisher?
I mean, I think, yeah, you have to be well read.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, sure, you could just, well, let's see what, you know, what Dark Horse is about, or what have you. I think you have to know what that comic company is putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just kind of, you know, I'm not going to be sending this to Archie Comics.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot about, and also just knowing um, who their specific audience is. Like obviously that goes hand in hand with whatever issue, whatever storylines and characters they're dealing with, whatever type of sandbox they're in. Because it feels like, yeah, you could even say, oh, sure, Image does everything. Well, I don't know. I think Image, they have specific categories, and Huge Detective definitely is a fit for more than just Titan. But Titan, well, look at the name of Titan. I mean, it couldn't have been more
More
serendipitous.
right. Yeah, I don't think there's a better suited name for a publisher for a book on Huge Detective than.
Yeah.
But well, Adam, you're super busy. I know, obviously Huge Detective coming out is a big thing. Are there other things that you're working on that you want to kind of mention and hit on before I let you go?
Well, I mean, I'm excited that I can say it out loud that I had the privilege of working as like a story consultant for Craven the Hunter, the movie, directed by J.C. Shandor, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not allowed to like get into specifics. It comes out middle of December, I believe, and I've seen it from the beginning to what it's looking like now. It's action packed fun. It's got the R for a lot of great reasons. And it was a lot of fun too. Like my role was just like deep diving into like the archives of like old comics and looking at different characters and seeing how they're going to explore those characters. And it was a blast. So that's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to kind of see it on the big screen.
So you're saying as a story consultant, your job was to read comics and stuff about other characters and let them know like, oh, here's what these characters or these people would do. And
Yeah, that's exactly it.
sounds like such a rough job there.
It was, yeah, it was a lot of, it was actually an interesting challenge just between like using like Marvel's what's the digital library called? Why am I blank? Not the
um
Marvel Ultimates.
Oh, it's Marvel Universe, isn't it just
Marvel Universe, is that
I
what
think
it
it
is?
is. I don't know. I have it on Unlimited.
Marvel Unlimited, yeah.
I
So
have it
yeah,
on my iPad. I was like, well, why don't we just save us the hassle of trying to like, oh, it's something unlimited, it's ultimate, it's
yeah.
ultra.
So no, that is a surprisingly deep library, and it
Yeah.
looks like they're continuing to add. So that was really great and fun. Even though, like personally, I'm still like I love my physical copies of comics. I mean, I know like space wise, I should probably consider getting more digital. But so yeah, that helped, and just like finding as many like back issues as I could in different places, and my own collection luckily was
Yeah.
able to help me too. Like there were certain comics that I luckily had that I could like look into for research purposes. So, and working like JC, the director, he would like kind of reach out with different questions, and I do my best to answer them.
So good. Well, when you can actually talk more about that, we'll have to reconnect on the show and do some deep dive into Craven then.
I would be thrilled to. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, technically speaking, by December, I'll be able to say whatever you want me to say.
That'll be great. That'll be great. So you got that. Is that kind of is Huge Detective then really kind of the main focus right now? Do you got other things in your wheelhouse with comics that
Oh,
you
yeah, I got a couple new pitches that I'm about to send. Hopefully get to people soon. Like they're right where I want them to be. I'm constantly working on new stuff. But yes, as far as presently, Huge Detective is like just taking the world by storm. I hope. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I'm gonna do a couple signings. Golden Apple Comics is gonna have me like that the Saturday after, I think, because it comes out August 21st. Final order cutoff is, well, I know like whenever this recording goes, but it is next Monday, August 15th, right? No, sorry, August 7th.
So okay, yep.
Yeah. So it's all coming up, but yeah, that's the focus. I'll just be doing as many signings as I can, and I'm hoping Magenta and I can't officially say this yet, but we're both working on maybe getting to go to New York Comic Con.
Oh, great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, busy. So gang, even if you're seeing this after the final order cutoff, call your shop. They can, make the call, put it on your list, check it out. look at the preview, see which ones you want, because there's so many good covers out there. Um, but check it out. And if you haven't checked out some of the other comics that we talked about, by all means, pick those up as well. Man, Adam, I was about to wrap it up, but no, I have one more question for you because you know what?
Yeah.
I know you're a comic fan. What's something that you've been enjoying lately that you've been reading?
Oh man. Well, I actually have it right here.
I feel like we always talk about these the last two times. So I was like, no, we got to do it again. We got to.
I got yeah, no, I mean, gosh, Sacrificers.
Yeah, it's a Rick Remender. It's so good. At the
Oh my
time of this
gosh.
recording, then what? Issue 11 just came out, I think. So
This is issue 9.
okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've been loving it. And then, well, let's just do a quick deep dive. A friend of my mom's went into her attic and said, "I know your son likes comics. These now, my comic like evaluator said, well, most of these are just nice for nostalgia's sake, but these super old comics.
Awesome.
Yeah, this one Just Married. And this is in pretty good condition. Angry Panda. These are all like, oh, and then this one, which I've been told you don't want to, you can't. These are like so inappropriate. It's just like
Oh wow.
like Bob Hope being like a real like lech, just not 2024.
Not the right vibes for now.
No. Then this is a cool one, Nancy and Sluggo.
Oh, very cool. There I didn't get to go, but there's a Nancy Fest here in Columbus that they.
Oh wow.
They
But
just had.
this one I would have been really exciting. Archie, but some kid, whenever they got this in the 1950s, wrote their name like on it in pen.
Worst. The worst. Why would you do that? But then I did that with books too, so I can't complain. Like,
But then the last thing I'll show that I just loved, and I think I loved it so much I forgot that I got the original cover with Doctor Doom on it. But I reread it, and this was awesome. This Doom story was just epic.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like Old Man Logan a little bit.
okay,
just,
yeah.
like in a one shot. I mean, it's like a whole world to explore. So
Yeah.
they're just a few. I mean, I've been reading Rare Flavors.
Oh, the Ron V.
Yeah.
And I love how he integrated the recipes into that. It was so good.
Oh gosh, Six Fingers. Speaking of Ram, because he's like part of that. And Six Fingers is going with the something hand.
The one hand, though,
Yeah.
the one hand and the six fingers. So yeah. So Rom was writing the one hand, I think, and Dan Waters was writing the six fingers. And you had literally it was the coolest thing. Even I don't care what anyone says, if they don't like the story, the concept is so cool. Like you're reading the issue 1 from the detective's viewpoint, then issue 1 of Six Fingers from the serial killer's viewpoint, and the story moves along like that, and it's done so well.
Oh, love it. I love it. Yeah. So those are just a few. And I am also trying to branch out more. I've been reading some more manga. If you haven't heard of the Soloist in the Cage, it is incredible. I literally got choked up reading it because manga, it seems like sometimes the storytelling, they don't shy away from some like really gut-wrenching moments. Obviously, yes, some like Berserker or whatever, known for its ultra violence, and I've read those too, and just the action sequences have been inspiring. But yeah, Soloist in the Cage, I read volume 1. I have volume 2 sitting on my counter. I'm trying to embrace manga even more because there's so much good stuff out there.
That's another fandom that I've wanted to dip my toe into eventually, but I'm just like, there's so many stuff I can't even read right now. I can't do it.
I know.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for taking some time to talk about comics with me. It's always fun to have you on. If people aren't familiar with you, where can they follow along with you, stay up to date with what you're working on?
Yeah, no, Shazam Cap is my Instagram name, and then Adam Rose 74 is X. And I just built a website, so I finally have like an actual website with all my stuff there and all my information. AdamHarryRose.com.
Okay. Nice. Well, if you are watching this video, the links will be in the description, or if you're listening to via your podcast, same thing. All the links we talked about will be in the description of this video. Adam, thank you so much again for hopping on talking comics with me.
It's always an honor and a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. So, gang, with that being said, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.